Now, it is the first Tuesday of the month.
And that, of course, means that Albuquerque Police Chief Ray Schultz joins us to take your phone calls. And Chief, thanks so much for being with us today.
Glad to be here.
Now, before we get to our callers, I know that you've requested America's Most Wanted to come in again to help get the word out about the West Mesa mysteries. And is that going to happen?
It is. They're actually coming into town later this week and this weekend to kind of provide an update to the rest of the country as to where we're at in this investigation. Specifically, now that we've been able to identify all the victims, we think that that's an important clue to get out to everybody in the country, and hopefully that'll jog somebody's memory and get that tip that we need to solve this case.
All right, one other quick thing. You're having a delay in police reports, possibly for certain people. There's a reason for that.
There is, and I'm getting a lot of calls from people saying, hey, I'm trying to get a copy of a police report and it's taking a little bit longer than it normally takes. This is the time of year where we have to do what's called our UCR reporting. And we have to provide documents and report information to the federal government, and that's how we get our federal grants, which totals about $15 million a year. So we have to make sure we get that report in on time so we can get our federal funding that we get every year. So we've got a lot of our people working on that, so there may be a little bit of delay when people want to get copies of accident reports, but we will try to get them as soon as we can.
All right, great. Thanks a lot.
Good. Again, you're invited to call in and ask the Chief a question. Let's start with Charlie from Albuquerque. Hi, Charlie. You have a question for the Chief this morning?
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, I do. My question is, when you get a DWI ticket, why can't we give that person an orange plate that says DWI with, of course, like a number? This way, when you go down the street, you see that orange plate, and people can look at that car and see if they're drinking or not.
Well, that's a good question. I know that's been debated quite a bit in the legislature, and there's pros and cons, and the biggest con that I've heard when I've been up there is it kind of, everybody else who drives the car, because in New Mexico so many cars are shared amongst family members, and they didn't feel that it was fair to have a spouse or a child driving that car maybe to school, UNM, or high school, right, to be designated with that plate that kind of says, hey, there's a convicted drunk driver. I think what we're doing right now is really working good is with the seizing of the vehicles and the booting of the vehicles. That's really sending a strong message, and we continue, unfortunately, to see a lot of vehicles confiscated from DWI offenders. I've got 5 acres of vehicles, a 5-acre lot that is just full of vehicles from one end to the other. So we still have a big problem here.
Wow. We have another caller. This is Marcella in Albuquerque. Marcella, thanks for calling. What's your question?
Thank you. This morning I want to ask you guys, how come people are still talking on their cell phones here in Albuquerque?
Well, unfortunately, people just haven't got the message yet, and we do write a lot of citations. There's actually a tactical operation plan going to be going on here today. I just heard the traffic units on my way into the station talking about getting ready to do an operation. So we will be targeting people today that are talking on cell phones, and it just takes a while. When we first started doing the seatbelt enforcement, and remember seatbelts became mandatory back in the 1960s, it took almost 25 years for people to really start wearing their seatbelts consistently. I think cell phones are going to be one of those things that's going to take a long time, unfortunately, to change behavior.
All right.
And we have another question from Albuquerque. This is Robin. Hi, Robin. Go ahead. What's your question?
Good morning.
Hi.
I'd like to ask a two-part question. I'd like to hear your opinion on why the special session is not looking into raising state taxes on alcohol. And do you think there's a special interest in keeping alcohol cheaper and easier to access?
Well, yeah, I have to be careful with that one.
Well,
but
well, let's address it from a DWI standpoint. Would you like to see something like that happen?
Well, if the money goes for prevention and treatment, and that's one of the things that I think we're really lacking in New Mexico are good treatment programs when it comes to substance abuse, and alcohol, of course, is one of those. Specifically when it comes to taxes, I mean, the alcohol lobbying industry there's a very strong presence up in Santa Fe. Over the several years I've been up there, I usually see those folks there, and they're protecting their interests. But there's some questions when it's almost cheaper to buy an alcoholic drink than it is a soda. I think there's a good point there in her question.
All right, great. Thanks so much, Chief Schultz, for joining us. And we'll be right back.